with it. It's not too far from Lawrence. So I've been there about 6 years now, and before that, I also I did an internship for Conan O'Brien show, and I lived in LA for a couple of years, and did a couple PA gigs on production assistant gigs on his show, and then yeah, I lived out there for a couple of years, and then I decided ultimately I wanted to be back in Kansas City, and but I moved back. So then I got opportunity at the Kauffman Center. I was first in uh, marketing and the ticketing departments kind of at the same time, and I had also worked part time at Sprint Center before, so there was some overlap there. And I'm also help manage a folk rock band, and I play piano and synthesizer in the band, and we're working on our first album. And we also we produced a couple of music videos, so I'm still involved in film and entertainment that way. So yeah, and let's see, and then yeah, as far as kind of like the job world right now, I think yeah, right now I think it's definitely kind of, especially in the past year, it's shifted a lot in a lot of ways. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to do live performances for a very long time. But we, in like the marketing department, we've tried to pivot as much as we can and do people engaged online and through other means like video content, audio, video, and not as much audio, but like photos and interacting with people online. Like we had a virtual talent show last year, and then we've done some collaborations. Like we had one with Mesner Puppets last year, and I think we're going to be doing another one with them soon. And we've done some like online trivia over Zoom, and a lot of other things. And then there's a lot of things that have like kind of shifted online that weren't online before. Like we started selling some things in our gift shop online. We just Charlie Hustle just released a couple of t-shirts as part of their communities program. So doing stuff like that, and yeah, I think a lot of places are definitely kind of more, a lot of more remote jobs right now, and then there's local, I think local companies that are remote at least temporarily. And we've at the Kauffman Center, like I think it kind of slowed down on this recently, but they've done some like special events, like really small events, micro weddings and stuff like that. So they're able to do events on a very limited basis, but we're trying to work with what we can.
Thanks, Tim. Perfect. Margaret.
Oh, me already.
Yes, you're next.
Hey, thanks for having me. I am Margaret Weisbrod Morris, and I was born. Sorry, my undergrad degree is in painting and printmaking, and I went to University of Wisconsin-Madison for that. And I promptly moved right after undergrad. I moved to New York City, and I worked in the gallery world for a while, and then I ended up just in the city at that time as a young person in the arts. It was gig economy, so I had a million different jobs. And one of those jobs landed me at Nickelodeon. And so I worked in the art department at Nickelodeon, and then for QVC for a while too, the Home Shopping Network channel. Lots of funny stories there. And then I did that for a while, and I was gigging around, and it was really super fun, and the money was great. But I felt like I wanted to do something a little different. So I went back to graduate school, and I got a master's degree in art therapy from NYU. And then I had a practice in New York City as an art therapist for about 10 years. And then I moved here and with my husband, and it was at the time that we moved, it was I'm not even going to tell you how long ago it was now, 20 years ago. I can't even and it was just a really different field outlook for the arts in Kansas. There wasn't a lot of I didn't have a lot of connections in Kansas in terms of media, and so the easiest and quickest job for me to get was in arts administration. So I worked at the Lawrence Art Center as the education director for a while, a couple of years, and then almost very, very quickly moved into state and government arts funding. So I was the artist in residency funding manager for the Kansas Arts Commission. And then I moved from that into arts education because that was really kind of my area of interest and what I really care about. And so I managed the art education funding streams. So I got to see what it's like to be a funder, which was super fun to give other people's money away. It's like shopping with somebody else's credit card. And then the Brownback defunded the Kansas Arts Commission, and I landed back at the Lawrence Art Center. And now I'm the CEO of the Art Center. So it's a long trajectory. I've been all over the place. You name the job, I probably had it.
It's nice to have. We have so much experience on this panel. It's so exciting. Katie, thank you, Margaret.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, thanks for having me. I am Katie Fleming. I work at Whiskey Design currently. I've been there for about 3 years, but I started at KU with a visual communications degree and a minor in art history. So I transferred into KU as a sophomore, a little bit of a non-traditional student, commuted, but loved my experience and, did everything I could to get further away from home, which was Shawnee. But, KU is still the best option for me. So I finished up with my degree in 2017 and been in the field since. And I've sort of entered as general marketing, started in senior living actually at Glen Devens, but stayed local in Kansas City ever since. Went from Glen Devens to MBB, Mueller Bressler Brown. And then from there to Whiskey Design. So sort of niched into branding and identity design as my specialty. And Whiskey Design picked me up after a mentorship through AIGA in Kansas City. So pretty cool.
Excellent.
Happy to be here.
Thanks, Katie.
Thanks.
Andrew, you're up next.
Oh, sorry there. Okay. Hi. Awesome. Great to hear from you guys. Yeah, so I'm Andrew. I studied music when I was at KU. I was a trumpet performance major. So I was like Mr. Marching Band and I was there the year that they won the national championship. So that was like one of the fun memories of my time at KU in 2008. And from there, I went to grad school. I went and studied jazz studies at Northern Colorado. And I was there for 2 years, and then I quickly moved out to New York, and I've been here for the last 7-8 years. And I actually moved to New Jersey now, which is, when you live here, it's a big, the lines are very important. So I live in New Jersey in Weehawken, and I essentially work as a freelance audio producer. So I'm kind of in that gig stage. I'm in that stage of taking gigs and doing random contracts for random companies. I produce music for a lot of podcasts. I do a lot of editing as well, audio editing. I do a lot of mixing and mastering, just anything audio related. That's what I do. I make it all right here. I have all the equipment and from my home. And that's pretty much it.
That's great. Thanks, Andrew. Melanie.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm just really impressed by everyone's resumes. Thanks for sharing. I comparatively have a more corporate job, as you can see. I am Melanie. I graduated from KU a couple of years ago with my Master of Architecture and a focus on healthcare design. So actually, one of my thesis was on senior living communities, Katie. And I have been here in the Bay Area in San Francisco since 2017. And I have specifically my focus is on healthcare and physical science laboratories. So anything that's research laboratories for the Department of Defense, Department of Energy, and also just the UC system of hospitals. I do engineering coordination, and I also I do construction administration. And so my job at the moment is extremely hectic and essential, which means I do go to the construction site every week, and it's more required that I'm very accessible and in the office and ready to go on the site any moment. And so I do the days that I do work from home, my goodness, I envy you. So yeah, that's I look forward to talking and sharing with all of you.
Excellent. Thank you. I'm impressed with all your trajectories as well. So thank you for sharing. I guess I'd like to start by just asking if you think about your first job that you got. How did you get your first job, and what do you recommend for students who are going to be entering the job market very soon and who are nervous? And anyone can jump in.
I can go. I have it right behind me. Proceed and be bold. Just walk in. I mean, if you decide you want to work somewhere, find a contact, call them. I mean, I am a little bit more of a New Yorker, you know, in that way, but just ask for informational interviews. You know, when I first moved to New York, I thought I wanted to go into fashion actually. And I just walked into, there was a designer who had his store on, you know, street level, and then the offices on the second level, and then they had the, you know, the studio on the top level. So they were making the clothes, designing and making the clothes and selling it on the spot. And I just thought that was really cool. So I just walked in and asked to take him out for a cup of coffee. I know it's kind of weird. I was, you know, in my early 20s, and he was very sophisticated, but it ended up being great. He hired me as his assistant, and it was all, I didn't stay there. I decided I didn't want to go into fashion, but if I did, it would have been great. But it was just do it. Have the chutzpah. The worst that can happen is say no. And you have to get through a lot of no's to get a yes.
Okay.
I actually went into an interview one time with that, and the person looked me straight in the face and said, "I don't have time to talk to you." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, kind of going off of what Margaret just said. I think reaching out to people who are like in the field that you're interested in can definitely be good. And even if it's like something that doesn't, you know, directly lead to an opportunity, it just like if you're reaching out for advice or anything like that, that can help. And like when I was in LA, I ended up getting a music supervision internship at one point. So it was like placing music in TV shows and movies. And for that, I started like reaching out to people on LinkedIn and just trying to, you know, meet people who are in that world. And then like one person kindly like referred me to the company Format Entertainment, they were called, and referred me someone there. And then I was able to get the internship from there. So yeah, in some cases it's just kind of putting yourself out there, and maybe, you know, down the line, someone that you know might have another connection with, you know, a company with internship or job or something like that.
Excellent. Good advice. Anybody else?
I could quickly add. So I didn't grow up in the United States. I came to KU as an international student from Muscat, Oman. If you may know, it's a little country in the Middle East. So compared to the US back home, jobs before you're in college are fairly rare. So my first actual job was a campus job at KU's Design and Construction Management Office. And I till this date, I mean, that job really prepared me for work. For it helped me a lot in my classes, because it was a job that was just so strongly related to my major. I did things that you typically don't want, that are not glamorous. I went around measuring urinals and water fountains all around Caves campus. Uh, you know, but I learned that that it is part and parcel of becoming an architect, and I know this goes without saying to any. I think a lot of seniors already know this. A lot of recent grads already know this, to stay open-minded. Just like Margaret was saying, even if something in the moment doesn't appeal to you, or you think you have a set idea of what you'd like to do, and it's not, in the moment it seems like it's the only option, I'd still say go ahead, because you never know how that might actually pan out. For example, throughout architecture school, a lot of people always are talking about how they want to design the next beautiful museum, the next best opera house, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what we do in our school projects, these, artificial buildings, make-believe projects. Towards my final year, one of my professors was asking me to, he had an offer for me, asked me to interview with a firm that did, just labs and hospitals and like seemingly non-glamorous stuff. Well, today, thanks to that connection, and then just like how I took my grad courses at KU related to healthcare design, today I have a stable architecture job just because of that. And unfortunately, I would say all of my architecture friends here in the city have been laid off, who have been working for real estate, interior design, museums, libraries, and they've been working for really, really good firms, and they still got laid off. But those who have been working for hospitals and labs, we've been busier than ever. And so that's why I'd like to say, just to stay open-minded, and who knows, you might actually really enjoy the work you do.
Thank you.
Kim, can I ask
You bet.
Melanie, that was wonderful, and Margaret, that was great, and Tim, but Andrew, I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit. And by the way, this is Howard. I'm from the Alumni Association, and I'm here to help Kim moderate a little bit. And we have 10 students that are live streaming this or joining us live on Zoom right now. And a couple I know, so we've got some architecture students. I believe we have a musician on here, and that's really, Andrew, where the question is. I'm just really curious about, for a student who might be on here right now, who's in marching band, who is studying trumpet, who wants to move to New York or Los Angeles, is in Tim's experience or Margaret's experience, how did you start? I mean, where does a musician start?
Oh gosh. Well, to be honest, luckily I had a KU friend who, she was already here. She went to master's degree. She got her master's here in the city, and I was good friends with her back when we were in undergrad. And I basically was just looking for roommates, and turned out she had a room opening, and it felt like serendipity a little bit, because she had a room open. It was my way in. I didn't really have anything lined up, to be perfectly honest with you. I just had connections. I had friends. I knew musicians, and I was ready to play with them as soon as I got here. But in terms of money, I was working at restaurants. I was doing the typical starving artist thing, and I was doing that for a while, and not until the last maybe 3 or 4 years have I kind of finally branched out and started my career, really. But yeah, no, it really started with a connection. It started with a friend. Really, it's all it really started with, and so I was thankful for that, and thankful for the connections. Did I answer the question? Or are we good?
I mean, and okay. Of course, I want to plug KU Mentoring and our network stuff, but I'll wait till the end to do that and turn it back over to Kim for next question. But that, yeah, it was perfect.
Great question, Howard. I'm sure there's a lot of students that were wondering about that. I guess I would like to know when you are, maybe some of you have been in positions of hiring or talking with potential students who are interested in going in your line of work. What skills do you look for as an employer to go into what you do or into the industry, the arts industry or architecture, so forth? What kinds of skills do you like to see from students?
I'll jump in. I've hired a lot of people in my time. I always hire for personality. Always. You can teach skills, but you can't teach somebody to be. It's harder to teach somebody to be a good person if they're not walking into your job site like that. So that's the number one thing. Being willing to just do whatever work that needs to get done. Just be willing to do it. Nothing's too big or too little. So a sense of team is really important. And, obviously communication skills are really important. Being able to write well and write about your work or what you're doing is really important. And to be able to speak, actually in speaking in public speaking is really important. And I know everybody hates to do that. I used to drop a class if I had to give a speech. I totally did. I'll admit it right here. Seriously. And like I would say in my job now as CEO, I would say at least half of my job is public speaking or some kind of speaking in public. And it's just one of those things you just got to, just do it. You got to jump in and figure out how it's comfortable for you. So those are, I guess, three things: teamwork, communication, writing skill, good personality, good attitude.
Perfect. Katie, anything you might add to that you look for as a designer?
Yeah, I could niche down into sort of what we talk about in an interview or sort of the level of skill that we start to consider people for full-time versus, internships or mentorships. But I think more of from an umbrella and overarching stance. I look for teamwork. I look for, someone who believes in, a bigger picture. In, I know you can get this job. I know if you went to KU's design, department that you're qualified, but why are you going to show up? And why are you going to come into a concept and be open and be willing to consider other people's ideas, to listen and to contribute honestly and vulnerably?
Good skills, something like that. Anyone else?
I agree with everything that's been said so far. I think like when hiring for interns or being on interviews for marketing, other marketing positions, we definitely look for people who are like good fit for the team. We do, all of us on the team wear a lot of different hats, and there's a lot of collaboration. So definitely looking for someone who can, is good with teamwork, collaboration, communication. Those are all really important. And we look at some of their previous experience and skills as well. But like Margaret was saying, there's some things that there's a lot of things you can teach, but some of the if whether a good fit or not, that's a little different. And also like being in marketing, I do a lot of writing and proofreading and stuff like that. So the one thing that may go without saying, but it could be surprising, just like the amount of resumes or cover letters we might get that have it's like grammatical errors, spelling errors, just little things like that we might notice a little more than usual. But it's definitely good to give a double check everything, because sometimes we'll have people apply but they put the name of the organization down incorrectly or stuff like that. So just getting like another set of eyes on whether it's portfolio or resume or cover letter can go a long way.
It's so nice to hear you all confirm that, because I think there's a lot of students that will look at a job description and they'll say, gee, I don't know if I have this, I don't know this. And Margaret, you made a very good point, and you said you can teach skills. And I think what students don't realize is when you come out of KU or you come out of your major or degree, you come out with very strong skills. And there will be, you're constantly learning in your job. I'm sure that you have learned so much since you've earned that college degree. And that was just through experience. So it was really good to hear that. Is there anything else that you might add? Any, Andrew or Melanie, that you know, gosh, this is really something that I would recommend, or something maybe that you wish you would have done while in school to prepare for the working world, I guess?
But what Tim said about the spelling errors and things like that, those might seem at surface very minute, but we, in a job like architecture, attention to detail is prime, and we spend, that matters a lot to us. You can't afford to mistype anything on a drawing. It's very, very expensive, and I've learned that the hard way. Your work very expensive. So that is a great point. I will say, yes, I agree. We look for confident personalities and a great sense of teamwork. I think what turns us off is when people show us our portfolio and say, I did this and I did this and I did this and then I did that. It's very easy to do that. I think that really turns us off, but we prefer when someone's showing their project, but this is what I learned, and this is what how my professor navigated my design process. My teammate helped me with this process, and I didn't know this earlier, but now I know this because of this project. So something that shows us communicating your projects in a way that demonstrates a sense of growth rather than a know-it-all attitude. And then finally, one thing that we really, really look for is community involvement. We like to see a good amount of nonprofit leadership, especially with our recent grads, because that shows that they can really take a stand in developing our office culture and introducing and really keeping the firms, helping the firm develop their, just their stance in the city, especially as for architecture, we're really involved in the community on a city level, as well as with the American Institute of Architects, the United States Green Building Council, and other nonprofit organizations that really affect city decisions. So we really like to see community involvement and what exactly did you do on those roles, and rather than just as vice president of this or that. So.
Hey, Kim, the chat is really active, and I actually think that we have someone who wants to ask a question there.
Excellent. I was just going to move to that. So great.
Yeah, and so I apologize if I mispronounced the first name, but Lourdes, you want to ask your question?
Yeah, it's Lourdes, but no worries. Yeah, so I just graduated from the Film and Media Studies program, and I also had a journalism minor, and I'm bilingual, I'm fluent in Spanish, and so I'm kind of like looking at all these different jobs with qualifications that like somewhat overlap with mine. And I'm wondering, what were you all like surprised by in your job search that you were qualified for, or things that you were interested in that you had never thought of before? Because I'm kind of thinking like nonprofits and all this type of stuff, and I want to find something that I can be creative in and tell stories and do something that I feel is like for a greater cause, even if it's not exactly what you would think of for a film and media studies major. So what was something that like surprised you in your job search?
I can try to answer that. For me, since I had the same major, I, like right out of college, marketing wasn't really on my radar as much, and now I'm in nonprofit world and marketing, and there's a lot of creative aspects to that, and it definitely overlaps a lot with other aspects of entertainment and film and media and all those things. So that was kind of a surprise to me because it wasn't something I was necessarily like originally looking for. And I had also had the experience with working at Sprint Center and in kind of like entertainment on that side as well. So I think there are a lot of jobs out there that are could have similarities or overlap, but aren't necessarily like original, like connected to film, for instance. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you all for being here. This is really helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
One thing too is just because I'm in the nonprofit world and I've also worked in government, and I'm telling you, if everybody needs somebody with film and media background, because the world that we live in, I mean, look what we're doing right now. The world that we live in is all about having that skill set. And so you have a lot of very valuable skills. And so, just pick where you want to go and try. And because the skills that you have are very, very valuable, because they're communication skills. Everybody wants those. Everybody can use that.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Thank you.
Kim, I've got a question, which, and I'm engaging people again. And so students, if you've got a question, just jump in. Which is, I can remember when I was an undergraduate, I got asked to come and speak to a class of visiting students that were from my old high school. So like, oh, hey, you went to that high school, you should come. And I got a great question, which was, and it's a pretty common question, but it's a great question, which is like, well, what did you take that helped you best when you got to Colgate? I went to Colgate as an undergrad, but I've got 2 degrees from KU. And I remember I answered it pretty quickly. And in my answer, I was thinking about this when I was running today, it does not change, which was the best class I took in high school to prepare me for college was typing. It didn't necessarily help me with critical thinking, but the amount of time it saved me and the skill that you have to have for any myriad number of positions is vital, right? You can't be in the workforce in many places without it. And so I guess I'd ask you the same question, because a lot of the people that are on this call, the students, are entering their senior spring. School has not started back yet. I don't know, alums and friends, if you know that school starts February 1 or 2, whatever that Monday is. We have an extended winter break because of COVID. And so there's still time. I guess are there things that you did in school, whether that was as an undergrad or as a graduate student? Margaret, you already mentioned public speaking. I think writing got mentioned in there. Melanie, I really liked what you had to say. I've got a friend who teaches writing for architects at the City University of New York. And so that's part of their program, right? From the beginning, they do that, right? So I guess the question is, whether it's in the world of music, if it's in the world of creative arts, performing arts, if it's in architecture, if it's in design, wherever that may be, are there things that you like look back on when you think about school and say, you know what, that was a skill that I absolutely have to utilize on an almost daily basis, that you would recommend? Because again, these students are kind of in that last semester and there's time to move schedules around and things like that. What's out there that helped you?
For me, like I said earlier, I had a minor in business, so I think having even if it's just 1 or 2 of those classes, those can be helpful for, I think, any kind of career that's out there, and also anything that deals with writing, whether just it could be an English class, but like for my major, there were a lot of film classes that had a lot of writing involved as well, and I also did some courses that were tied to music. I had a musicology concentration, so a lot of those were kind of tied to writing about music, and so I think if it's something that you enjoy, but could also help with your skill set or help in the business world, I think that's great.
Anyone else on that front?
Public speaking.
Public speaking. We're at, yeah.
I actually, like I said, I was the student who was I'm a studio artist. That's what my background is that's my call to the arts is as a studio artist. And I'm a maker. And so I want to spend the time in my studio and I don't really want to talk to anybody. And when I got into my graduate program, so in undergrad, I would drop the class if I had to give a speech. I'd be like, oh, nope, not for me, bye-bye. And when I got to NYU, in my program at NYU, they're very, very, it was a small department. It's actually the founder of the field of art therapy was teaching there still at the time. And it was a very early new field. And so it was very, very critical that everybody who came out of that program could talk about the work that they were doing and talk about the field. And so every single paper I wrote in graduate school, you had to give up and give it was a talk to the class. So you turned your paper into your professor and then you gave your talk. And then major papers, your big papers, you had to give to the whole department, which included psychology and social work departments, and education was invited there too. So it was very, very nerve-wracking. But it totally, I couldn't have gotten I couldn't graduate unless I did that. So it really put me in a position where I had to do it, and it ended up being just fine, and definitely some really embarrassing, stuttering, nerve-wracking moments, but just push through it because it's really, really important.
I would second definitely what Margaret said. I think my problem as well as my success at KU was that I just said yes to everything. I literally did anything and everything you can think of. And one thing I can say I'm proud of my time at KU is that I made really the most of it. I did a lot with the International Recruitment and Undergraduate Admissions Office. I volunteered there quite a bit, and that really significantly improved my writing and communication skills. I took a writing center job at KU, and that was noticed immediately when I in my senior year when I was applying to jobs. I have this job today because they really liked that I was a writing tutor at KU, and they always asked me to proofread some documents that I just learned so much through proofreading that documents that the average recent grad wouldn't have necessarily had access to. I don't think it was a particular class necessarily, but just working on all the soft skills. Public speaking goes without saying. Just leadership at different classes and just saying yes to whatever opportunities my professors presented to me. Sometimes professors would, provide things that were extra credit assignments. And even though I really did not necessarily need them, I would still do them because they were about a topic that I really liked. And I ended up just making, I thought it was just a smart way to make networking connections. Even if I really just didn't need it, I just, do the extra research and reach out to that particular architect or engineer. And I just kept constantly keeping my networks fresh. So one thing, for example, if you've done an internship and the internship is over, still constantly keep in touch with those people. It's not necessarily that you're doing it to return to that company, but people move from company to company all the time, and at least I can speak for the architecture firm circle. It's a very small world, and people rotate between particular firms, and that just helps so much. So that's that. I'd say just keep in touch with everybody, and be yourself and personal. Ask them about their trips and their kids and their projects, and be genuine.
Kim, you're on mute, Kim.
You had a great segue, Melanie, into a question that I had. But I wanted, before I asked, I wanted to ask about a networking question, and thought, Howard, you could tell a little bit about our upcoming program that's happening to help students connect with people in their fields. But are there any other questions from the students that you'd like to ask?
Well, I've got a question that I will ask on behalf of a few students. And Kim, I don't know, I think you said you had to go a little early to get that next Zoom open. So just looking at the time, and I
Yes,
can.
and I'll leave in a couple minutes, but I wanted to thank you all
Okay.
for being here. So
So yeah, I will talk about mentoring, and Andrew kind of set this up earlier, and then Melanie just hit it here. And there are some people who have messaged me in the chat saying, "Oh, you know, Melanie's story's great, Tim's great. I'm a trumpet major, and Andrew, you were a trumpet major, is that correct?" So we have a trumpet, or a former trumpet major, just switched to engineering on the call right now, right? And a couple people, and I hear this constantly from current students, is I'd like to connect with Melanie. I'd like to connect with Margaret. I'd like to connect with Andrew. And we have ways, platforms to do that, but they don't know how to start the conversation. And so a number of you are on the KU Mentoring, our mentoring platform. In regard